Hey guys, it's Stephanie, and I just wanted to make a quick video to talk about all the books that I am planning to read in February. February is exciting because not only is it Black History Month, but it is also Women in Horror Month. And to celebrate Women in Horror Month, Alex over at Hey Little Thrifter has teamed up with the Ladies of Horror Fiction to do a Women in Horror Month read-along for the month, and I am really excited to participate. Probably too excited because I think I completely overloaded my TBR, but these are all books I've been really wanting to get to, and this just seems like the perfect time to participate in something like this and to get some of these books read, so I am really excited to dive in. It's also the inaugural month for the Books in the Freezer book club, which if you want to join, you could go right ahead. You don't need to be a Patreon supporter or anything to join. You don't even really have to be a listener of the podcast. The conversations are mostly going to take place in our Goodreads group. And at the end of the month, Devin and I will do a live show that will be for Patreon supporters exclusively. But throughout the month, we can definitely participate and have a chat. I have the book up there in our Goodreads group broken up into different chunks of the book so that we can discuss things as they go along and happen as you're reading them in the book. And of course, I've mentioned it before, but the book we are reading is Stephen Graham Jones's Mongrels. This is a book I have been wanting to read for a super long time. This is a coming-of-age story about a boy who comes from a family of werewolves. He is at the point in his life where he is going to figure out if he is actually a werewolf, and just really everything that goes along with that, positive and negative. And I think this is just a really good, I would say kind of gritty coming of age story is how it's been pitched to me. It's very highly rated and very well regarded within the horror community. So I am really excited to get to this, and I feel like it definitely has a lot of meat and merit for us to talk about within the book club. So I'm really excited that we are starting off with this one, and a lot of people seem to be really excited to join in. So I'm really happy about it. So that is Mongrels by Stephen Graham Jones. So then I have some books for the Women in Horror Month read along. Basically, all the books that I have here are written by women. The first prompt was something short, and for this I'm picking up a book that I got such a long time ago and I was supposed to read but didn't get around to it, and that is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. I think that's how you pronounce it. Got just a lot of positive buzz. I saw a lot of people that I respect really enjoy this book and rate it pretty highly, but this takes place in Nigeria and follows two sisters, and as you can see from the title, one of them is a serial killer. The older sister, Kiersten, has kind of had to be the responsible one, and her sister has this, the book says, habit of killing her boyfriends, and her sister is always the one that has to meet her and help bleach everything and clean up crime scenes and dispose of the bodies, and she is just getting real tired of this shtick. She's getting really annoyed, but things get real when her younger sister comes to visit her at work at the hospital where she works and starts flirting with a doctor that Kiersten has a crush on, and that is not cool since she knows how these things tend to end. So I'm really excited about this. I think it's kind of been pitched as a dark thriller comedy, a dark comedy. So it's 220 pages, and it's one of those short books. This is a lot shorter. I don't know if you can see, smaller than a usual book. I'll have the audiobook accompaniment for this, so I'm really excited to get into it. That is My Sister the Serial Killer. So next prompt is something by an author of color, and I mean, Oyinkan Braithwaite is also an author of color. She is from Nigeria. I also have Nalo Hopkinson's Skinfolk. This is a collection of short stories that take place in the Caribbean and kind of deal with Caribbean folklore, and I saw on the back that the stories here, there's a variety of genres explored here. So there is some horror, there are some science fiction speculative, which is also what I liked about Tananarive Dew's collection, Ghost Summer, is that some of them were straight up horror, but some of them also kind of played around with speculative and sci-fi elements that I also enjoyed. So that is Nalo Hopkinson's Skinfolk. So next up is something by an indie author, and for this I am picking up Gwendolyn Kiste's The Rust Maidens. This is one I'm not sure if I'm going to get to because I think I might want to save it for the Books in the Freezer book club. I still haven't made up my mind about it, but if I don't get to it this month, then that's what's going to happen to it. But this takes place in the 80s in Ohio, and there's a phenomenon where girls are becoming these rusted metal people. Yeah, it says it starts with footprints of dark water on the sidewalk. Then, one by one, the girls' bodies wither away, their fingernails turning to broken glass and their bones exposed like corroded metal beneath their flesh. So this seems really interesting, and this also seems like a book where there would be a lot to dissect and talk about. And I even know the Last Bookstore in Los Angeles has a horror book club, and this is the book they're using for February for Women in Horror Month. So talk to me in the comments about what you think about this one. So that is The Rust Maidens by Gwendolyn Kiste. So like I said, if I'm not reading it this month, then I'm saving it for the book club. Next up is an author that is LGBTQIA. And for this, I am listening to the short story collection Her Body and Other Parties, which is a kind of feminist horror short story collection. And I wouldn't necessarily say these are like body horror, but I believe this is all story centering around the female body. I believe it's written by Carmen Machado, and it's available on Hoopla, so I will be able to get that read and listened to this month. I've heard really good things about it from people that I follow and whose opinions I trust. So I'm excited to get to that. That is Her Body and Other Parties. So two books that I'm currently in the middle of and really enjoying are The Wicked Deep by Shea Earnshaw. So I picked this up because the Bram Stoker the long list, so it hasn't quite been shortened down to like the official nominees for the Bram Stoker, but this was on the long list for the young adult category. And this was a book I was really interested about when it came out. So seeing it on the long list really gave me that extra push to finally pick it up. And this is about a small town named Sparrow in the Pacific Northwest. And this is a cursed town because 200 years ago there was 3 sisters. They were accused of being witches and they were drowned in the harbor. So every year on the anniversary of their death, the spirit of the 3 sisters possesses 3 girls in the town, and for a specific amount of time, boys are drowned in the harbor every year. This happens. And this is really interesting, very atmospheric. I will say the setting in this and just the atmosphere, you definitely feel like you're in the town. I say the funny thing reading about this is kind of the attitude towards everything. It is very nonchalant. Like people have parties to kick off when the anniversary is, and like high schoolers like dare each other to like dive in the water, which is, as legend goes, like how you get possessed by one of the sisters. And like half the people don't believe in this, but then there's also an epidemic of like teenage boys drowning every year around the same time. So it's very interesting. I'm really enjoying it so far. It does have some of the typical YA stuff that I'm kind of like about, but overall really enjoying this. And I'm currently doing this as a buddy read with Brittany at Under the Radar Books, and it's been really fun. So I'm a little over halfway through, so I'll be finishing this up within the next few days. Another book that I started was Lost Boy by Christina Henry. I have been curious about Christina Henry for a long time. I've been wanting to read her Alice books, her like Alice and Red Queen, I think, that are dark retellings of Alice in Wonderland. And she came out with this, which is a darker retelling of Peter Pan from the point of view of Captain Hook, where in this story, he used to be a lost boy and he was best friends with Peter. We get into the origin story of Captain Hook and learn that maybe Peter is actually not a nice person and kind of a dark figure. So I'm about 100 pages into it. Everyone says this is really dark. I don't think it's quite gotten dark yet. It definitely feels very Lord of the Flies-esque, which is what I've heard a lot, because a lot of it is the Lost Boys living on this island and kind of doing raids to get supplies and, you know, hunting and killing what they eat. And there is a little bit of like a survivalist piece in there. So it's been really interesting. I was never a huge fan of Peter Pan. I remember watching the movie like a handful of times, but I wasn't one of those people that was very enamored with Peter Pan or that really romanticized him in any way. So all this stuff about him maybe being like a psychopath is like, I'm okay with that. I can see it. So this is Lost Boy, the true story of Captain Hook. So far, really good. The next book I'm hoping to pick up, this is a short story collection by Mallory Ortberg. This is called The Merry Spinster, Tales of Everyday Horror. I mentioned this when I hauled it, but this was featured on the Barnes & Noble's Best Horror of 2018 list. And this is kind of fairy tale horror. Like I said, I've never read anything by Mallory Ortberg before, but it seems like a pretty small collection. And it's something I'm kind of might be in the mood for after Lost Boy. We'll see. And continuing on with my desire to read more books in translation this year, I am picking up The Diving Pool by Yoko Ogawa. I read her short story collection Revenge last year and really enjoyed it. I think this book is 3 novellas. Some of her books get classified as horror. I would say they're more horror adjacent, maybe like dark mysteries or like a story you're reading that kind of has like a last minute dark twist, but I really enjoyed her writing. So this is The Diving Pool by Yoko Ogawa. I got an email this morning that one of my audiobooks came in for the month, and that is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White. This is another book that was on the Bram Stoker long list for young adult books. So I will be listening to that this week. And this is another like retelling of the Frankenstein story, but from the point of view of a girl who gets taken in by Victor Frankenstein and he takes care of her. I read the synopsis through a few times and I'm not certain if it's like a caregiver relationship or a romantic relationship, so I'm going into this really not knowing a whole lot, but it seems like, you know, she gets taken in by his family and taken care of. I don't know if she like ends up working for them, but she starts to see that there is some darkness and some shady stuff that Victor Frankenstein is up to and doing, so I am interested to see where that goes. So that is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White. So those are the books I am planning on reading this month. We will see how that goes. Anyway, one thing I am really excited about, if you are excited about both Black History Month and Women in Horror Month, I know Tananarive Due and a lot of people are producing a documentary that is going to be on Shudder next month that is all about the history of Black horror, and I think like Jordan Peele's going to be there, and they're obviously going to be talking about specific movies that have really made an impact. So if you are interested in that at all, I forget what the documentary is going to be called, but I'm definitely going to be watching it. And I think I saw someone post that for Women in Horror Month. They're doing some kind of a free month of the service, so if you want to check that out, I think you definitely should. This is not a sponsored video. I'm just someone who recently got Shudder and like really enjoys it, so I would definitely check that out. Thank you so much for watching. Wish me luck with all these books, and if you've read any of them and have opinions, please talk to me in the comments. Like I said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!